Hey, good morning, YouTube. I have never done this before. I decided to just do it. Get ready with me. I'm right now talking to myself. Zero waiting, zero here because I'm just learning. But I wanted to let me make sure I'm not flashing y'all so YouTube don't get mad. I just decided to do this little get ready with me because I'm going to start going live on YouTube because TikTok is not showing me the love that I want. I hate this angle, but I'm getting ready right now. Ouch. This is sharp. So I just wanted to do introductions, see if anybody shows up at all, and introduce yourself, please. This is my first live ever. But part of me kind of want to talk about during this live is trauma bonding, because this Sunday, today's Friday, right? Yeah. This Sunday, so every first Sunday of the month, I host a group coaching. So I am a trauma-informed life coach for narcissistic abuse survivors. I myself am a recovering survivor of narcissistic abuse and other traumas. That's why I talk about surviving trauma so much on my channel. I'm just going to turn a little bit towards the light so I can pluck. So anyway, so I started doing trauma-informed life coaching in 2021. Wait, is that true? Yeah, in January 2021, because I felt like I had had enough space and time and healing, and I wanted to start giving back and helping other people. So I was like, okay, I'm going to create this platform called Out Here Trying to Survive, to basically help other narcissistic abuse survivors get through what I had just survived. And it was going well. It was going pretty well. I was spending a lot of time, like most people, like trying to build this YouTube channel and trying to build a TikTok or whatever. And it was slow going, but I was really struggling with coaching because I was still involved in my own personal drama with a boyfriend at the time. And then this year happened, and this year, as I've said, and if you've seen any of my YouTube videos, was like really a mess. This year has been really hard. So I decided to stop coaching because I felt like I'm not in a good place to do trauma-informed life coaching when I felt like it would be fraudulent. Like, girl, why are you pretending like you got your ish together if you don't? So I'm not pretending. I'm just coming as I am, saying I'm a person who has issues, and I can still make content. That's what I can do. I can make content about this and try to help and serve other people, but I'm not trying to pretend like I got my ish together. So anyway, so that's how that happened. But then I was like, I can still do group coaching, and I still feel pretty good about doing group coaching. So that's what I do every first Sunday. So this coming Sunday, my daughter should be breaking all my stuff. This coming Sunday, I'm doing a group coaching call on Zoom. The link is in YouTube. It's in the About section, like in my link tree. I have it linked, and you can sign up to join us for the Zoom. And I'm going to be talking about what trauma bonding is, how to survive a trauma bond, how to get through and get over a trauma bond, how I did. And I had very, 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 very intense, very severely rooted trauma bonds. So I want to talk a little bit more about my story, which I've talked about on here a little bit, but not really the full story of like just how deep my trauma bonds were and how long I was in them. Because it took me, I would say, like, I married my narcissistically abusive ex-husband. I married him in 2015. And I would say I didn't fully lose the trauma bond until 2021. And I've said to people, and I've made videos about this, that I still feel like I am 1%. Like if a trauma bond is on a scale from 0 to 100, I still feel like I'm at 1%. That I'm still have 1% of a trauma bond that I still always have to keep in check, which I kind of liken to someone saying, like, if you're an alcoholic, you're always an alcoholic, but you're a sober alcoholic. That's kind of how I feel about this situation with this trauma bond with my ex-husband, because I think I'm always going to be an alcoholic of his, if that makes sense, a trauma bonded person, but I'm sober. There is that 1% temptation where I have to tell myself intentionally, like, hey, watch what you're doing, watch what you're saying, watch your behavior, be careful. Um, I don't know if I'll ever fully be just completely past it. And I think that's okay because I have an awareness of my weaknesses. But not everybody's like that, you know. I'll acknowledge, because I started a group for narcissistic abuse survivors for women. So if you're interested in that, the link to that is in my link tree. I have my link tree everywhere. It's a private group for women survivors of narcissistic abuse. And we've talked about trauma bonding in that group. And in that group, wow, I've lost a lot of things. I don't know where my shit is at. But anyway, in that group, there are women who don't have any trauma bonds whatsoever. They had a horrible, narcissistically abusive ex, and they just don't struggle with trauma bonds. Oh, here it is. But some of us, there's 2 of us in the group whose trauma bonds were just so severe that we just have not been able to get it right. Just haven't been able to get it right at all. So, and just struggled and struggled and struggled and struggled. So I'm really passionate about trauma bonding and helping people, because even last night, so I have 2 sons, 13 and 17. And even last night, my sons was on some F shit talking about how, you know, they were listening to a song, and this, I don't know what song it was. I was in the grocery store, and in the song, some woman was talking about how she's so stupid because she keeps going back. And I was like, you know what? Oh, look at this. Okay. There's filters? I didn't know there was filters. Bubbles? No, let me just do something. I don't think this is helping. I don't think anything can help until I get this makeup on. But anyway, so my sons were talking about, in this song, somebody was talking about, you know, I'm so dumb. I keep going back to him even though he treats me so bad. And my son, my older son, was like, why would somebody keep doing that? And I said, Ransom, same as me. I was like, Ransom, it's called a trauma bond. Like, I'm not talking about every situation, but there is something very real physiologically in a woman's, or not a woman, in a person's body, where you get physically addicted to abuse and abuse cycles. And I was like, I'm not just saying this. This is like a very, very real phenomenon. And my son was like, he was like, no, you should never go back to someone who treats you bad. I was like, son, listen. Let me just tell you, I know you're 17. I know you think you're big and bad. I know you think you know everything you're talking about, but you don't know what you're talking about. And then I just actually told him, I was like, when I was with my ex-husband, who was not his dad, by the way, I was like, I was very trauma bonded, and I did go back. And it doesn't make sense. There's lots of ways and lots of reasons it does not make sense to go back to someone who treats you badly. I don't know if y'all saw that. I was trying to put foundation on my hand, and it just squirted all the way to the window, all over everything. I will come back to that and get that later, because that's just, oh my God. This is how you know I don't usually go live on YouTube, because I'm just squirting foundation all over everything. But anyway, so I was like, yeah, trauma bonding it's a physiological thing that happens. It happens in your body. It's not something that you can control, like on an emotional level. You're literally, it's literally an addiction. And I told him how some people say that it is stronger than a heroin addiction. There are people who've been trauma bonded and who have been heroin addicts who have said it is a stronger addiction and it's harder to break than heroin. And I believe it. Well, I've never been addicted to hard drugs or alcohol or nicotine or anything like that. So I haven't experienced what that's like, except for sugar. If you want to include sugar, I've definitely, definitely been addicted to sugar. But anyway, my point is that, I get it. I get what it feels like to feel so addicted to something. And the thing is that what I used to tell people too, so if you've ever been trauma bonded, you get this, is that, let's say you're addicted to alcohol or even sugar, heroin, whatever. Those vices don't just show up at your doorstep and be like, hey, I was wondering if you could partake of me today. I think part of what makes trauma bonding so hard is that usually when they're inflicted by a narcissist, the narcissist is coming back to you trying to hoover or hover, I guess is what the language is. And they're messing with you, and they're saying things to mess with your head, sometimes intentionally, because there's a level of cruelty to narcissists where they like intentionally like seeing you suffer because it gets them off because they feel powerful. So so I think the addiction can be even stronger because it's the addiction to the substance is the person or the abuse cycles, and it's messing with you. You know, like if you're an alcoholic and you decide not to go to the bar and you don't have no alcohol in your house, you can be fiending, but you're not gonna get no alcohol if you don't go if you don't go to the bar or go to the store and buy some. You're just gonna be fresh out. You're just gonna be completely fresh out. So anyway, but for me, what made it hard is, and let me know if this is you, if you can relate, is while you're trauma bonded to someone, especially if they're in a place where they're, or especially if you share a child, if you co-parent with that person, then all of a sudden, you know, you're seeing them 2-3 times a week or whatever it might be. And it's really, really, really hard to deal with those trauma bonds when you're constantly faced with the temptation of wanting their approval or wanting them not to be mad at you. Like for me, one of the big things with trauma bonds that I dealt with was, I was always trying to make it right because I felt so scared of him being mad at me. It was just such a terrible, terrible feeling, especially like when he moved out. The idea of him being mad at me was intolerable. There's no way I can explain that for people who, if you've ever been trauma bonded, then you kind of understand that. Like, it was just an intolerable feeling to think he would be mad at me. So I would do almost anything to keep peace between us. And that's the trauma bond. That's definitely the trauma bond, because the anxiety was just too great. It was just too much. So, by the way, I am not a beauty influencer in any way. Let me just say that. You gotta trust the process, y'all. I know I'm gonna look cute today, but it's a little rough right now. I'm just getting ready. I have a lunch date, and I am just, you know, trying to be cute. And I'm probably gonna film something today, so I want to be cute to film too. So anyway, yeah, so back to the trauma bond. I felt like I would do anything to keep him from being mad at me. And then it would swivel between that and I don't give a fuck, because when he moved out, like a lot of people, tell me if you've experienced this, when you're trauma bonded, you think your life is going to get better when they move out, but if you're not ready for that, it feels like a cascade of bricks falling over your head. I had no idea it was going to be so hard. I had no idea it was going to be so hard once he moved out. And I had no idea he was going to move on. Like a lot of narcissists, he lied to me. I thought that we made an agreement that neither of us was going to date anybody for 6 months. So we made that pact like the weekend before he moved out. Hey, let's not date anyone for 6 months. Let's give each other a chance to heal. Let's give each other the respect of, oh, that is not what I need. That does remind me. Let me do this. So yeah, so I was not expecting for him to move on that weekend, and to not hide it well either. You know, he didn't even bother to hide it well, because we were still sharing bank account. We were still sharing a bank account and credit cards. So so I could see all of his purchases. So he went, you know, to Chicago that weekend and spent time with the new thing. I was like, you didn't even hide this from me. Like, that's the least you could have did was hide it from me. But anyway, my whole point is, even though he was the one who had did that, I was trying to do anything to keep him from being mad at me. So trauma bonding is really ugly. So while I was saying that I was swiveling between like, okay, so, you know, I'm mad at you. I'm hurt about this, you moving on, but I also don't give a fuck, but I also don't want you to be mad at me. So it was just a horrible, horrible time. By the way, if you're new, I am Gracesandra. Thank you, Luna. Hi. I'm Gracesandra, and I do Out Here Trying to Survive, which is a platform I started because I was a victim of narcissistic abuse and I just wanted to survive. I felt like I was dying and I wanted to survive. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. I am not a beauty influencer. I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to makeup, but I'm just getting ready. So that's why I'm here. Anyway, but this Sunday I'm doing a Zoom on trauma bonding, what it is, how to break free, a little bit of my story, and I would love if you joined us. So the link is in my link tree to sign up, which is in my about page. This is my first time doing a live on YouTube, so welcome. Anyway, so yeah, the trauma bond for me once he started with this new person, I felt like I was dying inside. I felt like, and I told him and I told other people, like, I feel like I'm how did I put it? Like I'm losing limbs without anesthesia. Felt like I was bleeding out. It felt like nothing else I've ever experienced before. That level of pain at that intensity, it was even worse for me than while he was abusing me. It's kind of wild to say that because, you know, if you've ever been narcissistically abused, you know it's really a terrible feeling. It's, I think, personally, the closest thing to hell. I really do. I think it's the closest thing to living a living hell. But when he moved out, and I felt like, and plus, you know, we were divorcing, the divorce had been filed. And when he started this relationship with this new chick, it wasn't just that, it was that he was also being really mean while we were doing the exchanges. He was also really impatient with my tears. Let me know if that's you, if you've ever been with a narcissist and had someone be really impatient with you when you cry. I didn't realize till so much later. I didn't know this until so much later, but part of the reason narcissists do that, part of the reason they get so impatient with you when you cry is because that's how they manipulate people. So if a narcissist uses tears to manipulate people, they assume that every time you use tears that you're just manipulating them. And that was not what I was trying to do. I mean, y'all know that. People who are survivors know that. But so he would be mean to me, which if you've ever been in that situation is really hard. Make sure I'm not flashing off. It's really, really hard to look at someone and be like, I love you so much. I love you so much. Like, please, like, whatever you're doing, just don't be mean. Just don't be mean to me right now. And it was like I could not convince him to stop being mean to me. At one point, I told him, oh, I can't find my bronzer. But anyway, at one point I told him, I was like, I feel like I'm dying. I did tell him, I was like, could you please tell your new girlfriend, like, at the minimum, could she stop sharing online because I can't stop looking. I was just honest with him. I was like, I can't stop looking. I'm looking. It's driving me crazy. She's sharing everything. I feel like she's rubbing it in my face. I realized I was causing an issue between these two. Now, y'all, this was some years ago. This is some years ago, so I'm slightly ashamed. But y'all, I was in a rough place, okay? You'll have to forgive me because I was doing the most. But everything I was doing was a response to being dehumanized. So when I look back, I'm like, Grace, yeah, I was all fucked up in my head, but I was also being very much dehumanized. And so, my cat was on my bronzer. Of course, there he is. I don't know if you can see him, but anyway, so I was trying to mess stuff up between them so bad. And so I told him, like, she's doing this and she's doing that. I was literally like tattletaling on her. It's embarrassing to look back on. Let me know if you've ever been in that position where you just did crazy stuff while you were trauma bonded because you're just out of your mind. Like the fact that I was trying to mess up my ex, well, not, he was my husband at the time. My divorcing husband and his new boo, because I felt so ragey about what they were doing. It's just ridiculous when you look back. But anyway, so I was telling him, like, I feel like I'm dying. Could you please tell her to stop? And so he was like, okay. He finally agreed to tell her to stop. But what he was doing was he was saying, for example, I'm not going to see her this weekend. Like, or I know that you're hurting. I know that you're hurting. I'm not going to do that anymore. And then she would post about it. And then I would screenshot it. And then I would show him. and then it would cause drama between them. And I know I shouldn't have been caring. This was before I started therapy too, before I went back to therapy. So if I'd had a therapist at that time, I'm sure my therapist would have been like, Grace, just stop what you're doing. Like, you have to stop, which is what he did when I started, because it got so bad. Hi, Simple Life Days. Thank you. It got so bad. It got so bad with me trying to cause drama. And you know, here's the thing though, y'all. I'm laughing like it's my fault, but he was triangulating us. This is what narcissists do, where you start acting crazy. One way that you know you might be being triangulated by a narcissist is if you are yes, you become very out of character. And is if you realize you're being triangulated and you keep going. Like, that's how crazy it was. Like, I knew in some ways I was being triangulated, but I was like, I love him and I want him. It was really weird because I'm the one who triggered the divorce. I'm the one who triggered him moving out. I'm the one who said, I can't take this anymore. But then once he moved out and once the new woman came in, I went to some crazy maniac level of fighting for him. Which is exactly what he wanted. He wanted me to scream and cry and fight for him and tell him how much I loved him, which is exactly what I did. It's so ridiculous. And if you've ever been there, you know that. I don't know how to read comments while I'm doing this. Is there a way to do that? I don't know how to do that. I'm sorry, y'all. This is my first time ever going live on YouTube. So yeah, so he wanted that. He wanted me to scream and cry and act a fool, which I did. And she was doing the same thing. Like, he told me that she was begging him not to leave her. And I'm like, both of us are acting a fool over this man who is not worth it. You caught my first live? I don't think I went live on here before, have I? I don't think I have. Usually I go live on TikTok. But TikTok is getting on my nerves. TikTok is getting on my last ever-loving nerve, and I don't want to deal with them no more. So I'm going to start doing lives on YouTube and see what's up over here, because I'm trying to grow my YouTube community anyway, full of women who we don't have our shit together, and we're trauma survivors, and we just trying to survive. That's my name of my channel, is really what I'm trying to do. I'm just out here trying to survive, because life is fucking batshit crazy, and and it's not okay. It's not okay how cruel life is. But for those of you who are just tuning in, please subscribe if you're not. But I'm doing a Zoom this Sunday evening from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for people who want to talk about trauma bonding. So that's what I'm talking about right now, just a little bit of my story. So on this Zoom on Sunday, I'm going to be talking about what trauma bonding is and how I got through my trauma bond. And if you're in the part of the story where you're hearing all the crazy stuff I did, that's how bad it was. My trauma bonds were so bad. Also at this time where I was, y'all, my makeup right now is not makeuping. Whenever I try to do get readies with me, because I'm not a beauty influencer, like, I feel like my makeup looks so much worse because I'm just trying to talk and do this at the same time, and I don't know what I'm doing. But I know y'all don't care how pretty I look. This is more about the topic. But anyway, so what was I saying? Yeah, things got really crazy with her. So during this time, while he was triangulating us and I was trying to break them up and cause drama, I was looking at her social media. Y'all, I'm not exaggerating. This is not an exaggeration. Probably about, I don't know, 50 times a day, and his 50 times a day. So between the two of them, 100 times a day. Tell me, anyone else, if you've been there, where when you're trauma bonded like that bad to somebody, the obsession is so intense. The obsession is like nothing else I've ever experienced in terms of it's because it's not love. It's not love. It's not even lust. Yes. Thank you for the solidarity. I have to take this off. This is giving me like a weird headache. I don't like having wet hair on my neck, but it's giving me a headache. I don't know why, like a weird earache. Anyway, yeah, I was checking both of their social medias like constantly. And the trauma bond for me, it looked like, yeah, you forget yourself. You forget yourself totally. For me, it really looked like um a desire to solve a problem. Like I wanted to be like, look, see here, I figured this out on this day and this day. And like, then I saw on this, and I felt like if I, for 1 second, took my eye off his social media, I would miss something. Like, what if I missed a clue? Or what if I missed something he posted that was like, you know, something that I would have known that, or I could have known that. It took me a really, really long time to be like, it doesn't matter, Grace. Like, it just really doesn't matter what he's posting, or what clue you might miss, or what you think is happening that's not happening. You know, the truth is, he was done with our marriage. He knew I didn't want him anymore, so he got a new supply. And the truth is, I knew he was going to hurt her. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's the way he wanted me to act. And I was doing it. I was in it hook, line, and sinker. I was like, I'm doing everything you want me to do. The screaming, the crying, the loathing, the name calling. I was doing reactive abuse. I was doing all of that. But the truth is, yeah, he just had a new supply, and I knew he was gonna hurt her too. and I shouldn't be laughing about it. The only thing that I felt, I will say this, because I try not to have bad feelings about this woman, because that situation really hurt me. But I know it was him. I know she was being manipulated by him. But here's the thing. Unless he was lying to me, and he could have, I was telling him, you know, I'm in such a horrible place. Like, at minimum, could you tell her to stop posting about y'all? He said that he told her, right? And she kept doing it. There was a part of me, the way she was posting, I felt like it was being intentionally antagonistic. Like, for example, this was over New Year's. Like, part of this happening was over New Year's. And so I had asked him, like, hey, can we get together for New Year's? Can we just now, I shouldn't have done this, of course, but I was like, can we just have like a quiet night in as a divorcing couple who you've abused the F out of me? You know, it was ridiculous. But anyway, and so he was like, no, I'm hanging out with, you know, some guy from work or something. And I was like, you would rather hang out with some guy for work than me? You know, later on, he posted an individual picture of him at a bar, and then she posted an individual picture of her at a bar on New Year's Eve. And then, of course, you know, I was able to figure out, like, yeah, they were together and he just didn't want to tell me. But the way that they both did it, I felt like it was just intentionally antagonistic. And so I try not to have hard feelings towards her, but I think she was like flaunting it in my face, like, I got him and you don't, because she knew how hard that I was taking it and how much I, you know, loved my husband and wanted him to treat me well. So I don't have kind feelings towards her. And I know that she was being manipulated. I know she's being triangulated. But I wasn't, well, I don't know. I guess, see, now y'all got me thinking about this. Or was I trying to hurt her? I wasn't trying to hurt her. I felt like I loved my husband. But, you know, we all know it wasn't that. We all know it was a trauma bond. And so what ended up happening, see, I'm laughing, but what ended up happening was, it was a Valentine's Day thing where, he told me they weren't getting together for Valentine's Day. And then lo and behold, she posted a picture of her outside his apartment. Telling me it was a beautiful night on the 15th. And I went over there. I was so mad. And it's so inappropriate. It's so inappropriate. It was none of my business. But I went over there mad, crying, screaming, raging, exactly like he wanted me to do. And he said he right away broke up with her. And that's what he told me. You know, I don't know. But he told me what she said, and that she was begging, screaming, crying, saying she was so sorry. She would never do anything like that again. She was just crying and crying and crying and crying. Which is, so he got from her what he wanted to, which was, you know, another woman screaming, crying, and begging him to not leave him. And it's like, in hindsight, what fuckery, right? Like, for a guy to be treating two women so badly, and we both are begging, screaming, crying, please don't leave me. It's just, I think that it just goes to show how strong a trauma bond can be. How how much you come out of yourself, how much you feel like you can't make sense of what's happening. Because now when I look back, I'm like, why didn't you? It's very easy for me to look back and be like, Grace, why didn't you just try to pull away? And but see, the thing is, y'all, is I was trying to pull away. That is the challenging part of a trauma bond is well, it's an addiction. It's an addiction. It'd be like anybody who's a heroin addict or a drug addict or anything saying, yeah, I'm trying to get sober. I'm really trying, but it's really effing hard to do. And it was so hard to do. Yes, that's another thing. Thank you, Luna. We idealize their false mask. Because there are times, that's the thing that people didn't understand about during that time when he was messing with this other woman, and I was still telling him I loved him and wanted him back. There were times that I would see a glimmer of niceness. You know, like when he was telling me, yeah, I'm telling her not to do these things. I'm telling her not to hurt you because you're important to me. And I'd be like, oh, I'm important to you. Which is really funny, right? If I were at all important to him, he wouldn't have broke his promise in the first place, which the promise was that he wasn't going to be with anybody else for 6 months, that we were just going to divorce. Because we left when he moved out, not only did we agree, like, we're going to not be with anybody else for 6 months, but it was with the agreement, like, let's see where we are in 6 months. Because he had been saying, yeah, it was total mind games, total manipulation, because he had been saying, well, maybe we get back together. Maybe we could get back together in 6 months. Like, maybe everything will be okay. Sorry, I gotta do my eyeliner. And so I wasn't terribly hopeful, but he said he was going to pursue therapy. He was like, I'm going to pursue therapy. I'm going to work on all the things you're telling me about, you know, how I'm a verbal abuser, which, you know, that was the primary way that my ex abused me narcissistically, because narcissistic abuse can look like a lot of things, but the primary way for him was verbal. Yeah, I see your laugh emoji. That's exactly, it's funny now because it was like, oh yeah, you can get this all wrapped up in 6 months. So that wasn't, so part of the pain of him moving on so quick was, yeah, he broke the promise and that was terrible. But I'm like, you're also supposed to be working on, you're also supposed to be working on, you know, you're supposed to be going to therapy and getting better. What about that, the whole getting better thing? But instead you out here crushing my soul, lying to me every other day, which, y'all, it was worse for me than when we were married. The 6 months of him, from the day he moved out to 6 months, which is when we were supposed to reevaluate, was worse for me. Because here's the thing, y'all. Tell me if you've ever been through this. How often am I going to go live? I think once a week. I think I'm going to do once a week. I think I'm going to pick a time. Because I used to do live on TikToks every Wednesday morning. What's today? Oh, it's Friday. Oops. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. So yeah, I'll just pick a day. I think Wednesday morning or Friday morning or something like that. But anyway, the thing is that when we were married, you know, if you've ever been trauma bonded, you understand this. You can't really have peace till you complete the cycle. You know, you have the peace and then the build up and then the abuse and then the honeymoon phase. So you have to complete the cycle in order to feel okay. But when he moved out, what I didn't expect is that the cycle wouldn't complete. So we'd have the build up and then the abuse, and then I would be like longing for the honeymoon phase and I wouldn't get it. And y'all, when I tell you, that made me feel like I was going crazy. People who've never been there do not understand this. I've come to terms, like, I cannot explain this to someone who's never experienced it. It feels like you're going fucking crazy. So I was just like, this is worse. That's why it was worse for me than because at least when we were married, the cycle completed, the abuse, then we had the honeymoon, and then we had the time of peace in between. But once he moved out, those cycles weren't being completed, or if they were going fast, super fast, and we were having more abuse cycles more often. Then he wasn't living with me, so I didn't have his support. We had a young baby at the time too. Like, our daughter was, when he moved out, I think she was 2.5 or 3. You know, she was young enough to be a lot of hella work, you know, as children are. And so having to share her, Is the honeymoon stage the same as the love bombing stage? No, because the love bombing is in the beginning when someone's pretending to be someone they're not. Well, I have heard people say love bombing, that people can love bomb as part of the honeymoon phase, I suppose. But what I've heard of the honeymoon phase is it's part of the abuse cycle where someone's just abused you and then they go back to being really sweet. Like if we're seeing the cycle like this, like honeymoon is over here, and then you get abuse and then honeymoon. But love bombing, from what I understand, is at the beginning when you don't know who someone is, they're wearing a mask, they're pretending to be someone they're not, they're lying to you about what their interests are, all the things that love bombing entails, but you don't know anything about who they are. So that's what I've heard is the difference is you're being fundamentally tricked when somebody's love bombing you. But the honeymoon phase is just like when they're nice to you after they've abused you. And then that's what, strengthens the trauma bonds. So yeah, so those honeymoon phases, I was not getting those because somebody else was getting them. That's why that time was so terrible. During that time, y'all, I forgot that I'm doing my makeup. Let me see what else I gotta do. Yes, they're perfect during the love bombing phase, but during the honeymoon, you kind of know they're a jackass, but you're like, I'm too far in. But during that time, after he moved out, when he was with the new chick, there was a time where we had, for like 5 days in a row, he told me a lie every day. Like he would get my hopes up. Like, baby, I love you. I'm going to make this work and I'm going to say goodbye to her. And then the next day he wouldn't. And then the next day he'd be like, oh, I love you so much. I'm so sorry. I'm going to say goodbye to her. So it was like a series of 5 days. I was having such severe chest pains and I was doing so bad. I was going to the ER. I was having severe panic attacks. And I couldn't go into work. I had to take like a 3-week disability. I was crying for like 8 hour like blocks at a time. It was really bad, y'all. It was really, really bad. And that's the time when I told him, like, you're killing me. Like, everything that's happening, like, you're literally killing me. It would be better for me and our daughter, who's a baby, if you literally just exit our life completely, or if you just act like a human and like stop being cruel to me. And he didn't do either. He just kept acting cruel. And I realized, because at that time I had started therapy, like emergency therapy. Like I call a therapist, like, I'm literally dying. I'm being tortured and dehumanized by a narcissist. I'm not going to survive. Like, can you help me, please? Because I can't live. I'm going to unalive myself if something doesn't change. So yeah, by that time I started therapy, and my therapist was just like, look, like it was kind of like that radical acceptance moment where he was just like, look, you are never, ever, ever going to get the resolve that you're looking for with him. He's never, ever, ever going to be nice. He just wanted you around so he could be mean to you. Yeah, I think you're right. I do. I think he got off on it. Like a lot of people with narcissistic personality disorder, I think he got off on the power dynamic. I completely do. Good on you for having the strength to exit stage left, sis. Thank you. But I didn't do it right away. It took a really long time. That's why I said I'm really passionate about talking about trauma bonds, because even after that point, it took me a whole nother year to really, really, really lose the trauma bond. So he ended up hoovering that was January, when the story I'm telling y'all about, and then he ended up hoovering in August or September. I started dating someone else and I was really happy. So Q, which by the way, if any of y'all are interested, I have a whole 6-part series on my channel about this. It's like top of my page, 6-part series on this whole story. I don't have very many videos on trauma bonding. I just filmed one the other day and I'm going to put it up, but yeah. So if you want to know more details, but yeah, it took me a long time. But when my therapist said, like, you are never going to convince him ever to be nice to you, ever. Like, that's not how this works. You have to give it up. That was really helpful. That was really, really, really helpful. Because I thought at that point, I still thought, but I will convince him. I will absolutely convince him, and he will be nice to me one of these days. And yeah, that's just not how it works with narcissists. You literally have to decide, no matter what they do, that you are going to become immune to it, and then set to the process of doing that, which involves quite a lot. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go here in a minute. Oh my gosh, it's been 40 minutes. That's crazy. Does anybody have any questions or parting thoughts? If you want to join, I forgot I don't like this lipstick color, sorry. If you want to join us this Sunday at 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, go to the link, sign up. We're going to be talking about trauma bonds. What is it, how to get out of it, and in a group setting with other people who understand, because that's the main thing that I want, is to create a community of people who really understand what it's like to really go through this craziness. So anyway, thank you for joining, and I will see you on my next one. Bye.